Hello, everyone, and welcome to a taste of the elegance of living. This is the premiere Zoom of this wonderful class that is led by Christopher Hughes, who is also the manager of the Antique Guild and also has a lot more credentials to his name that I wouldn't be able to say correctly right now. So this is a class that you get to ask your questions and you get to look at what truly would you like to know about having an elegant life. And so without further ado, I would like us to talk to the man of the hour, Christopher Hughes. Hi, Chris.
Hello, Rebecca. Thank you for that. Welcome, everybody. I understand we have more people signed up than we can even get on this new platform of Zoom today, which is very exciting, but you all will receive the recording, so worry not. If you have any teething problems with this new technology or need a little bit of assistance, flick us an email and we'll make sure that we can help you for any future Zoom Hangouts that we use, because this is the new platform that we'd like to adopt for the second series that is starting next month. And Rebecca, who just did that introduction, is an absolute wizard when it comes to this sort of technology. So I'm sure she'll be more than happy to help with any sort of problems. You'll see at the bottom of the screen there, you have a little button that says chat. So if you'd like to ask some questions or have some comments to make, please feel free to interject with anything you would like to ask or know about. Today is a taster, as Rebecca mentioned, so it's going to be a little more informational. And I have some clearings to run for you, but I'd also like to hear from you, if you were on the first page in particular, what sort of information you're looking for that we could provide in the upcoming series. So before we go into any of that, I'm going to leave that question with you for a moment to think over. I do have a couple little clearings that I want to run in the background. For those of you who are on the first series of the Elegance of Living, you'll know that I don't actually run a lot of clearings throughout the course. It's really informational. We covered some real bare bones information to set a foundation for your knowledge of antiques in that first series. We covered silver and gold and gems and diamonds and porcelain and furniture and all sorts of things. So we're going to be building on that in the next series. Someone says my video is frozen, but as long as you can all hear me, that's probably all right. So as I said, the second series, we're going to be building on that knowledge and going a little deeper and further and give you more. But just while we're thinking about that and looking at that, I just want to run this clearing for you. What have you made so vital about never choosing what would create the greatest ease, joy, and glory in favor of a life you don't have to iron and you can put in the dishwasher? So everything that is times a godzillion, can we destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Again, some of you on this call might not be that familiar with Access Consciousness or some of the clearings. So you can read all about the clearing statement at, I believe the website's theclearingstatement.com. And it's just a phrase that we're using here to sort of clear any energies or limitations that are coming up with the questions that I'm asking. So I'll run that one again for you, just because it seemed to fry people for a moment there. So what have you made so vital about never choosing what would create the greatest ease, joy, and glory in favor of a life you don't have to iron and you can put in the dishwasher? Mm-hmm. So everything that is times a godzillion, can we destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So the fun thing about that clearing is it definitely does bring up an energy about the way most people are living today. They're choosing a life that is convenient or disposable or a one-off experience, as opposed to something that will really add to how they live and their style of living and the sense of wealth and joy that is possible when you start to explore things that are really fun and exciting for you, that add to your life. You know, in the realm of antiques and living with things of real value, there's so many areas that you can do that with, be it jewelry, be it furniture, be it things like crystal and porcelain. You know, I particularly love stuff that allows you to dine well and have a beautiful meal with friends, all of those things. And if you want to go into the history of it, there was this little thing that happened in the 19th century called the Industrial Revolution. And in that, we started mass producing and mass manufacturing a lot of things instead of having artisans like Miss Jennifer Tooten we've got here, who's a jewelry artisan. Instead of having artisans and craftsmen, we would have mass-produced, factory-produced things. And as a result, we lost a lot of craftsmanship and a great deal of elegance. As we've lost that, it's been a progression of the general public and people like you and I knowing about these things and how to live with them. So what I'm inviting to you with this series is adding those things back in your life and having a bit of an advantage over the general public who might not know about these things, who might not know how to read a silver hallmark or recognize crystal versus glass, that sort of thing. Again, if anyone wants to say anything about the first series and what they got from it and what they might like to see in the second series, I'm happy for you to interrupt me and go forward here. I know this new technology is a bit different, but please feel free to jump in. Or I can just tell you a little bit about what I've planned for the second series.
I would love to know what you have planned. And Corinna actually said to us, Chris, after taking series 1 in November, I played with an online auction and actually bought 2 items. I would be interested in learning more about auctions. How can I make sure I get some value since the pieces below 1,000, there is usually no certificate?
Yeah. Auctions we did cover in the first series, and I'm excited to hear that you played with the information, because there was another lady as well that took the information from the first series and went to an auction and ended up with a pair of fabulous George Jensen earrings that sort of slipped under everyone else's radar, and she went with it. Auctions are an interesting thing, and as I said in the first series in the manual, they are not really all that invested in the products they sell. They don't own anything. They simply sell it on behalf of someone else. So they're not all that particular necessarily about what they sell. And as you said, Corinna, with items below $1,000, most insurance companies won't cover something like that. Or your deductible on claiming something insurance for damage or theft is above what you actually pay for the item. That's a tricky one. Essentially, what you have to do, Corinna, is a little bit of research ahead of time. And as you take courses like this and get more knowledge and information about what really does have value, you should be able to make some more sort of educated guesses about what the real value of the item is versus what they're selling it. The general rule in a lot of auction houses is they're often selling things at about 1/3 to half of the actual value of the item. So even though you may have paid less than $1,000, it may be worth taking the item to an appraisal service and getting it actually appraised to know what the real value is on the market. So I hope that answers that. Someone else says that it's 11:11 on the 1st of the 11th, which I don't think that's true, but thank you for that. And the cat is running through the room very quickly. So Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share about the first series, or some things they'd like to look at more? And Karina, if you have more information about that.
Karina has just said, I really enjoy the items I bought. One was an opal ring, which has been white when I got it, and now it is sparkling, which is really, really cool. I have to say, I have built up quite an extensive portfolio actually since the series, and more wonderful things seem to be popping out of the woodwork from anywhere and everywhere to me now, which is, it's really delightful and fun. And we were looking at the second series and how we wanted to create people, like create the class. We had been nicknaming it a boot camp. And then we realized, like, the same as the energy of Gary Douglas calling our new system the Fizz, which stands for fucking internet shit, instead of Big Bang, which is what it really wanted to be called, it created a different energy. So we realized we no longer want to take you on a boot camp, but an extravaganza of elegance. And I am definitely ready for round 2 of that.
Fantastic. Well, one of the things that I found with the first series, and again, I'm recapping some things so that those of you who weren't on the first series get the information, but the way we went through the first series was we looked at sort of items in isolation and went through, as I say, the jewelry and the silver, all of those things. But what we're going to do this time, now that you have that foundational information, is we're going to look at those categories like silver, like crystal and porcelain and furniture, and look at them in areas of your life. So say, for example, we're going to look at dining and that element of living. And we're going to look at dining from the Georgian period and in France during the English Georgian period and in the Victorian period and in the Regency, and give you a little more of a palette for time and history of how things have changed over time, so you have that recognition, because that will ultimately, I mean, looking up a silver hallmark is great information and you can make a lot of money with that, but there's a level of connoisseurship that I'd like to invite you to with this next series, where you have also a little more discernment of when things were from and what sort of, how things were done at the time, which can give you some more information about what the value of the item is and the rarity of it, that sort of thing. And also some of the really important and famous makers of the time. I found last time when we did periods of history and I introduced that to you all in the 5th or 6th call, we could have explored that topic so much more and so much deeper. So I'm really excited about digging into that this time and giving you more info. Sorry, I'm just pausing for a moment to see.
No problem. I was just going to say to everyone that you are also really welcome to unmute yourself and ask Chris a question yourself. We have him here. This is an interactive video platform, so you do get to talk. We are in his lounge room. How did we get so lucky?
You are. I've never quite had this many people in my lounge room. I know there's well over 100 people that have signed up for this. And this is one of the reasons why we've switched to Zoom, is unlike Google Hangouts, you can talk to me. So these classes are going to be a lot more interactive and a lot more back and forth between us. And I can still show you images, and I have a blackboard on this program, so I can draw rude pictures to you, which I probably won't, but I might. Now, while people decide they're going to ask questions, I've got a couple more clearings here that I'd like to run for you. So what style of living are you refusing that you really could be choosing, that if you chose it, would add the inconceivable to your life? So everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
I mean, part of what's so magical about this is I can tell you for myself, not that many years ago, wow, money wasn't an easy thing for me. And it started for me with buying two little tiny salt dishes that I think they cost me $45 or something. But choosing to actually spend some money on something that had some real intrinsic value to them has snowballed into an incredible collection, as you said, Rebecca, of things that are genuinely worth proper money. And when I look around my home and go, wow, I could never really be in that much financial trouble, because if anything happened, I could just sell a couple things and I would be fine. And it's, aside from that aspect of it, there's such wonderful things to live with because they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful and they're valuable. And they encapsulate an artist's expression and a period of time that sort of take you on a bit of a journey with each item. And they're also unique things that I or my husband would choose or pick to live with. So they create our own style of living, which is quite fun. Like, as you said, Rebecca, you've sort of establishing steadily quite a magnificent portfolio of jewelry. That the jewelry that speaks to you and that has the value to it that you found will be quite unique to what might appeal to Michelle or Delaney or somebody else on the call. You know, we each get a chance to explore that.
And I think that's what's so fun about it. Like, I remember for years, like, my family has like an extensive collection already, and it was always so like coveted for me. And then while I started creating my own like collection, I realized how different and unusual my own personal style of jewelry are. Like, I can definitely see that my mother is very like traditional. She likes her gold and her white gold and a couple of different blue shades and lots of diamonds. And whereas I'm enjoying the greens and I'm loving rubies and the pearls and these really unusual pieces. And if I hadn't actually started choosing and exploring to create my own portfolio, I would never have discovered that that's truly the kind of jewelry that I really love. So for me, what's really interesting is that the more that you start to create and play with these pieces and these energies, the more you realize what really is you and the style of you that you really enjoy. I definitely had no idea about that before.
Well, and it just continues to grow. As I reviewed the course material from the last segment that we did, or the series we did about a year ago, it was amazing for me because I got to see how much more I know that I've picked up and knowledge that I've acquired over the last year. So I'm excited to share that with others and see what that might mean for them. I mean, as I said in the email I sent out welcoming everybody here, it was blew away when we had the jewelry show in Costa Rica to have people come up to me with questions and the things that they had taken the information I gave them and extrapolated from and learned more of was so exciting for me. And they had such astute, educated questions about jewelry that we were looking at or things like that. Amazing to me. There was even a couple people that took what they knew and found a jeweler in their hometown that was going out of business. And they got all these amazing pieces for really great prices because they had this extra information that otherwise they might not have had. So we've got a couple little questions coming in here on the group chat that I want to address. And the first one is from G, and it says, is there any value difference of luxury jewelry of modern time against those of antiques? That's quite a broad question, and it really depends on a case-by-case scenario and what you're comparing. Some antique jewelry is very valuable because the materials are no longer available. And we went through some of that in the first call. luxury modern jewelry, I have a bit of a beef with some luxury modern jewelry that is, say, from one of the big design houses like Cartier or Tiffany, that sort of thing. In my opinion, and again, this is my opinion, you go into some of those jewelry houses and you may pay 30 to 40% more because of the name attached to them. But by the same token, if you go into Tiffany in New York and Tiffany in Sydney and Tiffany in Tokyo and Tiffany in London, it's so mass produced and it's all the same stuff, but you're paying all this extra money for an item that, to me, it's just standing behind a name and not necessarily a quality. And with antique pieces, you're going to find often fairly individual, unique pieces. Not in all cases. There is, certain antique pieces of jewelry that they made so many of them, you can find tons of them. But still, it's as I said, when we had the Industrial Revolution, I don't know that people quite get the impact that has had on the world and on how we live. But I know it's a very broad answer, G, to your question, but in terms of luxury jewelry versus antique jewelry, you really have to take it on a case-by-case basis and be present with each item and have a good look at it. I've been to auctions, say, in London, where old antique pieces were not getting very high bids at the auction, but anything by Cartier, even if it was the most ordinary piece of plain gold jewelry with no stones in it, people were going nuts to buy it. My personal preference is, if I can get those antique pieces that aren't on their radar, then there's the value. There's where I'm making some extra money by grabbing what other people aren't valuing at the moment, and I can take it to somewhere where they will and create all sorts of value in the meantime. Jennifer Tooten said here that it's fun to see how a piece of jewelry contributes to one's life. Yeah, well, it's like Karina just said, that the opal ring that she bought was sort of a plain white when she bought it, and now it sparkles. I've seen that time and time again. When someone really values something and it reacts well with their body, it will just come alive and sing. I have jewelry like that just loves me. And then there's sometimes people that, they don't really value the item, or it doesn't really react with them that well, and it's like the item sort of dies, or they somehow lose the item. You need to actually recognize the consciousness that each item is and has, and have a bit of a communication with that. And some of the tools that I'm giving you have been developed by me because I've been through a lot of antique stores and auctions with Gary Douglas and seen how he does it and how he communicates with these things. And it's a combination of taking the information that I'm giving you and pairing it with your awareness so that you find what works for you and what's interesting to you. Okay, we got a couple more things coming in here. So Galaxy S5 Neo, which I assume is not your name, says in what ways do items jump out, talk to you, say in a store, antique shop, particularly for jewelry? Yeah, you sort of need to follow your awareness and your knowing and get a sense of what that is for you personally. The other thing is, sometimes you find someone to go with and look at this stuff that knows you really well. Have you ever been to a clothing store and the thing on the hanger that you would never want to try on, you've put on and gone, wow, this is actually just what my body wanted? So that's Rachel, the Galaxy S5 Neo. I assume that's her phone's name or something. But say, for example, in Costa Rica this year, Grace Douglas put a ruby bracelet on Rebecca, who's here on the call. And for the first time since I'd found that bracelet in London, it went, ah. And it totally made sense all of a sudden. it's in each case, there's an energy that might just be like, yes, that's what my body's been looking for, or that's a real contribution to me. I've got rings that aren't even all that terribly valuable, or now in my life, their relative value doesn't seem that high, but they still really love me. And the attention that it creates for me, or the communication between me, the thing, and then what other people perceive is absolutely unreal. G is also added here, but there are also many boutiques and goldsmiths who produce pieces of their own designs that are very gorgeous. Absolutely. Like, say, for example, there are certain brands or companies that I love that are modern. It's not antique stuff. So please believe me, I'm not all about antiques. But they produce a level of craftsmanship and artistry that I can recognize that they will be and become antiques. One of the phrases that I use in the store all the time to people is, you won't leave IKEA to your kids. And there's something in that. I mean, if you're looking for pieces that will actually go beyond your life, my husband loves his porcelain, and I have to confess, it started to rub off on me in a terrible way, in that this particular line of Regency porcelain from about the 1800 to 1820. Now I find myself looking for it. And I used to hate porcelain. But there was a quality that was produced at the time that, if you think about it, a porcelain cup, which is very fragile, to last for 200 years, it's been to a lot of conversations and a lot of coffees and a lot of parties and a lot of meals. And it still has a consciousness, and it's still on its journey. And people are, when we die, it'll probably still alive if we don't break it. And someone's going to pay for it again, and it's going to move on. And, these things are on their own little journey. And so you can choose to live with them for a while or not. So I have another question here that says, I've been on one of your shows in the 7-day class, and I had, and nothing particular, but all things were jumping at me. What could this be about? I would ask yourself, A, what would be the greatest contribution to your life? And B, what is it that you are unwilling to receive here? I had one lady come up to a jewelry show that we were doing, and she said, I don't get this. I don't get this jewelry stuff. Nothing. Why is it so expensive? Why is it valuable? What is this? And all I said to her was, maybe there's nothing for you here. And then I said, or maybe there's something here you're not willing to receive. And I walked away. And she burst into tears and recognized that there was a style of living and an element of wealth that she had divorced from herself and she wasn't willing to have. And she ended up finding a thing that I still see it on pictures on Facebook of her wearing, and her whole body is just like beaming, lit up with all this happiness and joy, that this element of the earth, because that's what most jewelry is, pearls from the sea, metal from the earth, gems from the earth. And they often represent an energy that your body really wants or really likes. And often wearing these fine things represents an element of caring for you and honoring of you that you may not otherwise be willing to give yourself. It's like, to what extent are you willing to honor you, nurture you, and gift to you? Or would you rather just a life that you can put in the dishwasher? So everything that is times a godzillion.
Chris, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Delaney.
I really would like to comment on that. When I first met you and discovered Access like 6 years ago, I was still walking around with dreadlocks and kind of hippie clothing. And I'd come from a background where my parents had no interest in the elegance at all, and had not been exposed to anything. The first jewelry showing I went to, I couldn't even try on jewelry. I was overwhelmed by the that something that could be $10,000, let alone more than that. And now, I was talking to Rebecca recently when we met up down in Canberra, of all places, and she said to me, "You must be getting quite a portfolio of your own going now." And I realized, yes, I have, and I'm still right at the beginning, but the enrichment to every day of my life and how that just continues to expand daily, it really does just absolutely blow me away. The contribution that a piece of jewelry or a silver goblet or a piece of crystal or a beautiful piece of china can actually enhance so many areas of our lives. And so gratitude, and just so excited about the second series, because I know everything in my life these days is expanding really quickly. So bring it on. And thank you, Christopher.
Thank you so much. I see there that we're having a bit of action muting and unmuting by the host, because I think in the future headphones we may need. Is that right, Rebecca? Because we're getting a little bit of feedback when someone else is talking or I'm talking. But
sometimes outside isn't helpful, or it's always good to just have like a pair nearby for like safekeeping and fail safes if we get noise going on. So that will be part of the home play of the series, is to get your pen and paper and your notebook and download the software and headphones.
Cool. Well, I mean, obviously we've gone through a fair bit in the last little while here, but what a contribution some of this stuff can be. And as I say, the focus of this is about teaching you to find it for yourself. It's not about, yay, jewelry's great, it adds to your life. Yeah, it does. Cool. And how do you find it and find the pieces that work for you, and find them places that you maybe didn't know they were, where you can find them for crazy great prices. There's a guy who came into my store yesterday, and he's big in the mining industry. And we were sharing this story about two of the biggest diamonds in recent history that were found were an accident. They were the result of a mining operation where the diamonds were not what they were mining for, and they were cast aside in the waste. And it caught them out of the corner of their eye, and they went to have a look, and they realized, wait a minute, there's something in here. There was a 700 carat diamond amongst this rubble of waste. So I'd love for you all to be able to find the diamonds in the rust, in the rough, and add that to your life. I told you all a story on one of the last calls about a gentleman in the US who went to a swap meet or a flea market, and he bought a clock for $11,000, which was what the clock would have melted at as pure gold. And he sold it for $35 million because it was one of the lost Imperial Fabergé eggs. So that's out there. There are possibilities like this. I've had it happen to me, not on that scale, but it hasn't happened to me. I've created that for myself on a number of occasions. And as I say, for those who are on the first series, we've gone through and I've given you the knowledge to know what a metal of something is, or know where a piece of silver was made and who made it and when they made it, what country it was made in, what's the difference between crystal and glass. We've gone through all of those things, and now is the time when we get to really dig into some much more exciting areas of scholarship. It's one thing to be able to read a silver hallmark and go, okay, well, this was made in London and it's sterling silver and it was made in 1875. All of that is fairly clearly laid out for you. There's a level of scholarship, though, that comes from being able to look at something that doesn't have necessarily the hallmarks so clearly paced out for you, but be able to go, oh, okay, I know that this piece of bohemian glass was made by this maker and not this maker. And I can tell because I can go to this source, this source, this source, and determine all of those elements. They're tricky things, but there's a way that we can do it that I think you'll find quite exciting once we actually get into some of that information. Okay, have we got anyone else chatting away there? No? Well, I'm going to just run one of these clearings one more time. I think Sean Sargent is trying to get on the line. He just emailed.
I'm already here, Chris.
You're here now.
Yes.
See you, my friend.
Good jacket.
Thank you. All right, so here's the clearing. What have you made so vital about never choosing what would create the greatest ease, joy, and glory in favor of a life you don't have to iron and can put in the dishwasher? So everything that is times a godzillion can be destroyed and create it all.
Yes.
Even the cat said yes. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what style of living are you refusing that you truly could be choosing, that if you chose it, would add the inconceivable to your life? How inconceivable is it to you that you could find a treasure worth millions? And everything that brings up can we destroy and create it all?
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Cool. Have we got any more questions? Again, one of the main objectives for this call was to ask you guys what you would like more of, what you would like next. I'll set a broad thing. I could talk to you about stamps for if you want. Stamps are some of the most valuable things in antiques. I find them particularly boring, but I could talk to you about those if you really wanted. I'd rather make this content valuable and interesting to you.
I would love you to talk about them. I have a collection here I've been researching on my own for a year now, and I'm still nowhere near through it that I found in my grandmother's desk. So I'm putting this on the request list.
Stamps. I knew one of you would.
I wouldn't have known that that was something that you had available to you. Now I'm very grateful. Okay, cool. I might bring it over with us.
The magic about this is it's not about being an expert in any particular area, but the willingness to ask and search for the information. Quite often thankfully I have Gary Douglas in my life and I run the store for him. And one of the greatest gifts that he is there is he requires me sometimes to get a PhD on a particular subject in about 6 days, be it African tribal art or Art Nouveau Bohemian glass or whatever. He sends me some broad collection of that I've got to go, right, what's this? What's it worth? Anybody can do this. You have the capacity to dig and research as well. The point of this call is not to teach you everything that you need to know so that that's it. It's about showing you the ways that you can start to delve and develop your own awareness. We're part of this one website online called First Dibs, and it's like the most beautiful things on the planet is what it's called. And it's sort of like an ultra high-end eBay. Like if you want to find a ring for $1 million, that's the site that you go to. Everything that we post as a dealer, their experts go through and determine whether or not you're correct and whether or not you have accurately described your item. So I posted some vases, some glass vases that the expert said, these aren't what you say they are. They're not made by that person. And I was able to systematically go through and disprove everything that he was saying about my thing. And he was the expert. And by the end of the conversation, he said, wow, you really know what you're doing. You really know what you're talking about. And honestly, it was the first time that I'd ever really started to explore this area of glass in particular. But by willing to just go, wait a minute, where's the information that I need? And sit down and start to look and start to dig, I developed a whole new knowledge base on this topic in no time. And it wasn't about going, oh shit, this guy's a PhD and he's got books on the subject and what could I possibly know? It was just a willingness to go, no, hang on a minute. This doesn't match my awareness. What you're saying does not match what I know is true. So I'm going to follow that and see what I can find. And I'm going to give you some hints and tricks and tips along the way to make that easier for you, but you can do this too. Okay, we got another thing coming here. So G says, will it be too much to suggest to utilize and apply the extra capacities and abilities that we have to treasure hunting and its worth? No, that's not too much at all. That's what this is all about. I'd love to teach you to recognize real value and find things. I went to an auction not that long ago, and there was a ring that looked too good to be true. Mm-hmm. And no one was bidding on it. And so I went and I bought the ring. And I think I paid $1,000 for it. And I looked at the stone and I went, is it glass? It's too clear. There's nothing like it. It looks like it's just glass. But when I actually took the item to a gemologist and had it appraised, the ring turned out to be worth $30,000.
Holy cow.
And I was the only one there at the sale willing to go, no, that's good. I'm going to take that. No one else, all these other experts and people that have been doing this for 40 years are passing up on this. But no, I think I'm going to grab that. And boy, am I glad I did. It's not necessarily just the information that you have. The information is a tool and an accessory to your awareness. So everything that brings up and everything you've bought about not being able to do that, not being able to find that, not knowing enough, can we destroy and create all that? Mm-hmm. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine, shirts, boys, and beyond. Okay, so.
Wow, this has been really wonderful. What a brilliant introduction to this series. It definitely has me 10 times more excited, and I was excited from the beginning.
Cool.
So,
We've got a couple more questions here coming in that I want to address.
Sure.
And then we may wrap it up shortly, or I want to give you some more information about the second series for those of you that are choosing to go forward, because we have an offer for our alumni from the first series, and then an offer for those who didn't do the first series, but that information really is required to move forward. So first of all, we have a question here saying, can you differ artificially created emeralds against natural by your knowing only?
Yes.
Yes, and I never just leave it with that. I then go further and ask more questions and show it to somebody else. I mean, for those of you who've taken any of the money classes through Access Consciousness, there's a few tools that you can apply to this as well that are amazing. And one of the things is hang out with people who know more than you do, or ask people questions that know more than you do. It's amazing what you can find out by saying, hey, what do you know about this? And find out. You know, I'm constantly taking pieces to a couple of the gemologists in my local area and saying, so is this good? Why is it good? What am I looking for? And finding out what's going on. Always ask. I always ask the stone. I'll say, hey, are you as valuable as they're selling you for? No? Yes? Oh, no. Okay. So how much are they willing to sell you for, and are you worth it? Oh, okay. Go with that as well. As I say, the information and the awareness go hand in hand. The awareness often comes first of something will pop or jump and go, and give you a bit of a tip. as to what might work. Sometimes, though, the interesting thing is you'll buy something, and I've had things that I've bought in the past that they added to my life or added to my wealth, not by the linear reality of, oh, I bought it and then I sold it and it made me a lot of money. It's been like, oh, I bought it and then I gave it to somebody and it changed their reality and created a gratitude for them that they then moved on. And sometimes it's really non-linear when something says, buy me. Do you know what I mean? So have a think about that too. I want to address Karina's question as well, who says, would you suggest to do live auctions over online auctions? My experience is with online auctions, get a condition report on the item. Sometimes the photographs online are very flattering. Also, be really aware and present when you're looking at the item online. I mean, you should do that anyway with whether it's live or online. Really look at the thing. You'd be surprised how many people are really not paying much attention to the world around them. Have a really good look at it. Look at it from all angles. Look at it upside down. Take a flashlight to it. Take a magnifying glass to it. Have a look. You don't have to do all those things, but you can find all sorts of extra things out from it. But with the auctions that are online, make sure you really read the description, because sometimes I'll buy something and then I'll look back after and I'll go, oh, it's 9 centimeters tall. I thought it was a vase that's this big, but it's this big. Mm-hmm. Make sure you pay attention to those details. And you can get a condition report. Say, for example, there's some china that's for sale tonight in London, and my husband really wants it. It wasn't until this morning that they honored my request and sent me a condition report, and we found that actually quite a few pieces are chipped and broken. Mm. So you can always ask the auction for a condition report. You can even, at a live auction, when you're there in person, ask for a condition report for jewelry or anything else. Because sometimes there's information about the piece that they're not necessarily outright advertising, but may really change your decision about whether to buy it or not. Couple more questions here that I'm going to go through. Catherine Burton says, do you use the tools of access when buying, selling? And if you do, will you be using those in the classes to enhance skills? Yes, absolutely. As I say, the first series that we did was really heavy information with, there was a little bit of clearing mixed in, but a lot of it was about delivering information. We're going to delve a little more into using the tools in buying and selling, and using the tools to heighten your awareness in binding. So that's going to be a big part of this next series. Jennifer also says it's also about how we can use our money to create more, to create the future. Absolutely. The choices that you make today create the life that you have tomorrow. So this is all about using your money and not spending it. I got a mortgage this year with my husband, and they asked us on the mortgage application what assets we had in our home. And they wanted us to list things like our refrigerator and our TV. And we were like, what are they worth? You know, they decrease in value all the time. We went through the house and added up the furniture, the crystal, the silver, the jewelry, the antiques of real value. And in a 2-year period, we had acquired and accrued over $150,000 worth of things that we could sell at that price. Some of them we paid more for, but we could at least sell them at that price. And we went, oh, the ease that creates in your life, the quote unquote, I don't want to use the word security, but the knowing that money's not really an issue is quite incredible. So absolutely, Jennifer, this is totally about creating the future. One of the taglines that Gary and I have played with for this is calling it the past as a future commodity. You know, it's something Gary Douglas and I are both really quite enthusiastic about silver and sterling silver. And now there's really no one left in the United States, especially, that produces sterling silver. Sorry, the cat's just knocked over a picture. So all of that silver is going up and up and up and up in value. And still, people would rather sell it right now because the price of silver is going up so they can get a higher price for it, so they're getting rid of it. But look 20 to 30 years down the track. How much of that silver will be left? So if you have some of it, or a lot of it, then what's it worth? Kind of exciting, if you ask me. So we've got another question here that says, have you tried demolecular manifestation process on any of your items to make them look better, change, repair, etc.? What was your experience, if yes? I have not especially used demolecular manifestation on my pieces to improve them. What I have done is lived with them and they've changed. So it's funny. I've had the experience of things that were chipped or cracked suddenly not be chipped or cracked anymore. I've had jewelry become more shine brighter, more sparkly, more valuable. There's certain things like pearls and opals that especially like to be owned and worn. And the more they are, the brighter they get, the clearer their color, the more lustrous, the more radiant. So yeah, that's totally possible. I'm going to leave that there for now. And we do have, as I say, in about a month's time, we have the second series of this coming up. We're going to dive in deep and look at a whole lot more of how to live with this stuff. Sean says, yes, this info on the areas to find the future wealth creators will be amazing, please. Yeah, absolutely. And Rebecca's just put up the website address so that you can go and visit the website. For those of you who were on the first series already, who are alumni of Series 1, there's going to be a quiz. I know, it's going to be mostly home play, but I really want you to revisit this information that we covered in the first series, and I'm going to give you a little assignment so that you have to go back and dig into it and remind yourself of some of the content that was in that series. Then when we start the second series, there's actually going to be home play for each one so that you start applying this stuff and go out and exploring with it more. And as I say, the structure of it's going to be different. We're going to go through areas of living so that we can look at the accoutrement of these different areas of living and how it's changed over time so that you get a palette for the periods of history and look at it from the bedroom to the dining room to traveling to all these different areas of your life. And how, you know, did you know that there was a time when there was different jewelry to be worn after 5 o'clock and after 12 o'clock? And in the Victorian period, if you wore diamonds during the daytime out in public, you were a slut. So we're going to look at some of those little bits of information as well. And those won't necessarily add to your wealth, but the more knowledge you have, the more you can create with this. So again, for our alumni, instead of $495, this series is $395 until the end of January. The actual series starts on the 16th of February. The information's all on our website, but it will start on the 16th, 2 days after the 7-day in South Africa. For those of you who are coming on safari. I know he knocked the picture over, isn't he? He's a bad shit. Sorry, I'm talking to the cat. For those who have never done Series 1 and would like to explore this, as I say, we do require you to have the information from Series 1. So I require you to take it and then take the little test I'm going to give you before we start Series 2. And if you'd like to sign up for both and jump in and do this, believe me, you will make way more than what you invest in the cost of the class. We're doing a package deal of, I think it's $795?
$785.
$785. instead of the 990 that it would have been if you signed up for both. So I'm trying to make this as accessible as possible for you. And a lot of the people that were on that first series will tell you that with the information that they gathered, they made a whole lot more money than that.
Oh, yes.
Cool. We've got one more question here coming in saying that I wonder if any of the processes can be used to replenish silver and such metals in the earth. Hey, what do you know? I mean, the thing is with all of these things, and with the past being a future commodity, is so much, as I said, of the metals and the gems, they're gifts from the earth. The timber that the furniture is made of, some of those timbers are gone. And recognizing that is a huge gift in knowing what they will be worth in the future. I mean, even things like ivory, you know, where people get really upset about the use of ivory, and I certainly don't condone, you know, killing animals to use it. But if you have a piece, when they're all gone, sometimes it's a testament to the gift that they were, and also a good investment in the future. So I'll leave that with you, and everything that brought up around ivory, can we destroy and uncreate it?
Yes.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Cool. Does anyone else have anything to say before we go?
Just thank you. Thank you so much. This is, I mean, every single time, Chris, you and I have a conversation, my world expands 10 times more, and I know more and more than I ever thought I could know about this. And there's still more. So I am really grateful, and I so look forward to this Elegance extravaganza. There is 6 calls on a platform exactly like this that you get to play on with us, and I would love it if any of you wanted to join, who's listening now or in the future. You are also welcome to share this taster. This is a public taster for the world. So we will be putting the link on YouTube, and then you can share it if you know someone that this information would be useful for to hear.
Yeah, I definitely know that more would love to have been able to get on the line today, but it was pretty full already.
Thank you so much, Chris. This is so fun. It's such an energy that I've been asking for, and I just so enjoy listening to you talk. I could listen forever. And I make my living pretty much on the computer all day long. And I was asking earlier this morning, you know, what would it take to, you know, get out and about and make money doing that rather than always being on the computer? What else could I add? And then this series, oh, that, I forgot about that energy. So I'm really grateful. I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time to put together a series like this, because I know it can be a lot of work and a lot of time, and it's just so wonderful to learn what you know.
Thank you so much, Julia. I'm really grateful for that. That means a lot.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that people like listening to me talk about this stuff, because I love it so much. It's amazing to me that someone wants to hear me talk about silver. I mean,
oh, I could listen to you all day long. I remember I had you on my radio show about 1.5 years ago, and I was so excited. We were talking about all the different utensils you could have in your kitchen, and I collected these amazing silver grapefruit spoons with the jagged edges, and they're like one of my favorite possessions, and there's just so much more that's possible, so I'm just so grateful.
Cool. Well, that's what this is all about. And like I say, and I've said before, elegance is about the maximum impact with the minimum amount of effort. The reason that they put those jagged edges on a grapefruit spoon was it made it easier and more of a joy to eat them.
Yeah.
So it's like, what if all of your life was like that?
Oh, I love it.
Cool. All right, my friends. Well, I have got to depart, but thank you so much for joining us this morning, wherever you are. I know for my friends in Korea, they got on at about 5 in the morning. So gratitude to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.